gather together Yehuda for return from captivity. As Palestinians are being cleared out of Gaza by the Zionist Israeli army, Yah is giving you, the people of Judah, instructions to start gathering together to prepare to leave from this land of captivity. Our scripture text is Zephaniah chapter 2, verses 1 through 7. Quote, gather yourselves together. Yes, gather together, O nation not desired. Before the decree bring forth, before the day pass as the chaff, before the fierce anger of Yah come upon you, before the day of Yah's anger come upon you. Seek ye Yah, all you meek of the earth, which has wrought his justice. Seek righteousness, seek meekness. It may be ye shall be hid in the day of Yah's anger. For Gaza shall be abandoned, and Ashkelon a desolation. They shall drive out Ashdod at the noonday, and Akron shall be rooted up. Woe unto the inhabitants of the sea coast, the nation of the Kiriathites. The word of Yah is against you, O Canaan, the land of the Palestinians. I will even destroy thee, that there shall be no inhabitant. And the sea coast shall be dwellings and cottages for shepherds and folds for flock. And the coast shall be for the remnant of Judah. They shall feed thereon upon. In the houses of Ashkelon shall they lie down in the evening, for Yah their Elohim shall visit them and turn away their captivity. Selah. Hallelujah. It's cited in our lesson tonight entitled, Gather Together Judah for Return from Captivity. We, the Israelite captivity of Judah in this Babylon, America, are instructed, as was read from Zephaniah chapter 2, verses 1 through 7, that when there is a devastating destruction of Gaza, which will eventually cause the population of Gaza to be removed, that in that time, the captivity of Judah, you should gather together to prepare to return to the land of Israel, which would include occupying Gaza. This return of Judah from Babylon, America, will be initiated by Messiah Yeshua himself, who is the ensign or rallying point, who empowers Israelites to return to the land of Israel, because Yeshua, Yahusha, is the root and branch called in Hebrew the Netzer of Jesse, as stated in Isaiah chapter 11, verse 1, and Isaiah chapter 11, verses 10 through 16, which all state, and there shall come forth a rod out of the stem of Jesse, and a branch shall grow out of his roots. And in that day there shall be a root of Jesse, which shall stand for an ensign of the people. To it shall the Gentiles seek, and his rest shall be glorious. And it shall come to pass in that day that Yah shall set his hand again the second time to recover the remnant of his people, which shall be left from Assyria, from Egypt, and from Patros, and from Cush, and from Elam, and from Shinar, and from Hamat, and from the islands of the sea. And he shall set up an ensign for the nations, and shall assemble the outcast of Israel, and gather together the dispersed of Yehuda, the dispersed of Judah from the four corners of the earth. The envy also of Ephraim shall depart, and the adversaries of Yehuda shall be cut off. Ephraim shall not envy Yehuda, and Yehuda shall not vex Ephraim, but they shall fly upon the shoulders of the Palestinians toward the west. They shall spoil them of the east together. They shall lay their hand upon Edom and Moab, and the children of Ammon shall obey them. And Yah shall utterly destroy the tongue of the Egyptian sea. And with his mighty wind shall he shake his hand over the river, and shall smite it in the seven streams, and make men go over dry shod. And there shall be a highway for the remnant of his people, which shall be left from Assyria, like as it was to Israel in the day that he came up out of the land of Egypt. Notice in verse 11 of chapter 11 of Isaiah, it mentions 8 various places where Israelites were exiled, according to the Masoretic Hebrew text as used here in the King James Version. However, in the ancient Israelite text called the Septuagint text, that version of Isaiah 11 states the locations of the Israelites in exile this way, quote, verse 11, Isaiah chapter 11, Septuagint text, quote, and it shall be in that day that Yah shall again show his hand to be zealous for the remnant that is left of the people, which shall be left by the Assyrians, and that from Egypt, and from the country of Babylon, and from Ethiopia, and from the Elamites, and from the rising of the sun, and out of Arabia. In this version, instead of a location of exile being listed as Shinar, as cited in the King James Version of Isaiah 11:11, which is Shinar is actually referring to ancient Babylon in Iraq. But the older Septuagint version text uses instead the term the country of Babylon, which could both include Babylon of ancient Iraq as well as Mystery Babylon, America. There is strong genetic evidence that Israelites here in Babylon, America, descend from Israelites of Judah that were exiled in ancient Iraq in the 7th century BC. The vast majority of the so-called African-American Hebrew Israelites who do the ancient genetic ancestry test through My True Ancestry and JetMatch, which unlike the other ancestry companies, match your DNA to a ancient archaeological evidence of fossils and remains that usually discloses Hebrews in America as having a close genetic heritage to a tribe of Jews in Zimbabwe and South Africa called the Limba. The Limba say they descend from Jews who came out of the ancient exile from ancient Babylon in the days of Daniel in the 6th century BC. And they list a common Judean ancestor of theirs whose name is Sanaa. Sanaa is listed among returning Jews who returned back to the land of Israel after the 70-year captivity in ancient Babylon had been fulfilled. And it states in Ezra chapter 2, verse 35, of those exiles of Babylon, quote, the children of Sinai, 3,650. The children of Sinai are those ancestors that were in ancient Babylon or Shinar, as stated in Isaiah 11:11 in the King James Version, Masoretic Hebrew text translation. But the children of Sinai were also in that Babylon of Shinar, ancient Iraq, Babylon. And it states that when the captivity in Ezra chapter 2 came back, that these ones were also part of the exiles that returned back to the land of Judah and to Jerusalem around 536 BC. Now, because of the close genetic distance between so-called African American Jews and Limba Jews, and generally speaking, even the Limba, they don't understand why they're so closely related to the so-called Negro here in America. And well, we don't have time to go into all the details of the breakdown of how that is, but of all of the tribes that so-called African Americans are related to out of Africa, the one that most of us are closest related to there are the Limba in Zimbabwe and South Africa. And they state that their ancestor, our ancestor, one of our ancestors, is listed in Ezra chapter 2, verse 35. His name is Sinai. And wherever they moved when they left Babylon and then ultimately went into exile again with the Roman destruction in 70 AD, wherever they moved, they later moved through Arabia and down into Yemen. Wherever they moved, they always named the area where they habitated after the name of the ancestor whose name is Sinai, who's mentioned in Ezra 2, verse 35. And just wherever they moved, eventually, because of Islamic persecution, they had to leave the Arabian Peninsula and they went into Ethiopia. And then because of Orthodox Christian persecution there, they scattered further south, going through Kenya, Tanzania, and on into Zimbabwe and South Africa. And wherever they went, every settlement they had, they would always call it Sinai. And they have had a very meticulously accurate oral tradition. And genetically, much of your ancestry is the same as their ancestry. It's amazing because so-called African Americans, it was considered that our enslavement from Africa was randomly done. That is, contrary to popular opinion, it was not such a random process that rounded us up and brought us here. Pretty much, most people do not understand that Africa is a very genetically diverse continent of people. And what has happened is that the so-called Negro primarily has one genetic haplotype of DNA. That means we come, as much as we know we were in different parts of West Africa and different parts of Congo and South Africa and East Africa, nonetheless, it's strange and quite fascinating that nonetheless, in all those dispersions, Yah had his hand on every process, every step where we went. And when we landed over here in slavery, guess what? It still was predominantly only one DNA haplogroup that basically we are predominantly from. Even though Africa is a land of multiple diverse genetic haplogroups. This is a great witness to Yah knowing the movements of every aspect of the Israelites, whether it was through Africa or even in the Americas. He always keeps up with your movement. He always monitors the count of you and us. Even my personal DNA record and yours, you'll find that basically as the descendants of ancient Israelites, one of those ancestors even being listed in Ezra chapter 2, verse 35. And you who take the My True Ancestry DNA test, usually at the very top of the tribes of all of Africa, you're the most related to, will end up being them, the Limbo. Descendants of Jews that came from ancient Babylon and returned back to the land of Israel in 536 BC. We can't make this stuff up. Sometimes truth and the reality is of truth is greater than fiction. You just have to accept the truth of the matter, that you are people with a heritage of exile, both in ancient Babylon, Iraq, in biblical times, referred to as Shinar in Isaiah chapter 11, verse 11, as Shinar, but in the Septuagint text, it's called the country of Babylon, of Isaiah 11:11, which would mean that you not only descend from the ancestors who were in captivity in ancient Babylon, Iraq, but you descend from Israelites who were brought in captivity as well to Babylonian exile here in America. Even in my personal DNA record, it showed and connected me to a close relationship to an Iraqi family of Jews. This was like finding a needle in a haystack, but it was found. A specific family here that moved to America in the 1950s from Baghdad, Iraq. And this family and I share a third great grandfather who was a Jew in Iraq in the 1700s. So this is not an American slave history mix, because this family moved from Iraq to America in the 1950s, well after slavery. So this wasn't the result of some kind of slavery rape. This is predating all of that. But our common ancestors were living in Iraq. And I personally tracked a family of Iraqi Jews living in Iraq that we were related to, sharing the same or third great grandfather. And that from that family, we have a common ancestor, in spite of the fact that one of his descendants, my ancestor, got caught in slave trade. Because in Iraq, in Yemen, Jews were usually a lot darker than the Jews you see in Europe. And there's a lot of pictures I could show you, the details of how they looked. They were Jews from Iraq, were so dark and so much in appearance like many of you. Deborah and I went to Israel in 1993, and we stopped at a stand, and it looked like two brothers there. They were selling sandwiches. We just got off the plane. We were hungry. And Deborah and I looked at them and said, "Where are y'all from?" And they just laughed and they said, "Oh, we're from Iraq. We're Jews from Iraq." They look like they could have been your brothers. And in fact, they look like Deborah's brothers. They're in Macon, Georgia. So what I'm saying is some of them were caught and captured. And when the families could not pay off the kidnapping money, the Muslims would sell those Jews to slavers on the east coast of Africa, in Zanzibar, Mombasa, Kenya, and in Dar es Salaam. And there were many Jews from Iraq that ended up coming in the transatlantic slave trade to America. That's the hidden secret that a lot of their families don't want people to know. That's kind of like a skeleton to many of these people. But it's true. The genetics verify it, and that's the case in your genetic history as well. So again, this confirms that Judean exile captives to America descend from both exiled Jews from ancient Babylon, Iraq, whose descendants were Jews who were brought in slavery to Mystery Babylon, America. And according to Isaiah chapter 11, verse 10 through 11, the return of the exiles from this Mystery Babylonian captivity of America will be coordinated and managed by Yeshua, who is called in Isaiah chapter 11, verse 1, the Netzah in Hebrew, meaning the branch of the root of Jesse, meaning he is a descendant of Jesse's family through King David, the son of Jesse. Our master, Yeshua's management of our return to the land will be coordinated through the congregation of the branch. And he is the branch. He is the branch that we connect to. He and you are genetic family. That's clear. And as such, he takes priority in managing you in every aspect of every movement. And he has a plan. One is he wants all of us to now begin the process to become affiliated and connected with a Nazari branch of fellowship, a Nazari congregation. Nazari means people of the branch. This is a term used in Acts chapter 24, verse 5, where Paul was called a leader of the sect of the Nazarene. That's what it says in English. But in Hebrew, the word Nazarene is Nazari. Nazari. And before the term Christian came into use, the early followers and believers in Yeshua were Israelites who called themselves Nazari. And we do have a record from as late as the 4th century AD, where a Christian bishop named Epiphanius met some Nazari Jews. And they told him, because he knew as Nazari, they believed in the Messiah, Yeshua, which made them different from Jews that didn't believe in him. But they told Epiphanius, don't call us Christians. They didn't want to be called Christians. They still wanted to be called Nazari, people of the branch, referring to Yeshua, who is the branch of Jesse, and describing 11:1 of Isaiah, meaning they are the people of the king of Israel. Because to be the Nazari, the branch of Jesse, means you are the rightful heir of the kingship of Israel. And that is the title that Yeshua possesses. And originally, the pure teaching of the Nazari followers of Yeshua was different than what you see in Christianity. They kept the Sabbath, they kept the feast days, they kept the dietary laws, they kept the Torah, and also they had the true teaching of Messiah Yeshua. They refused to call Passover Easter. They in 190 AD, they made a big disruption with Gentile Christians over there. In 190 AD, they said, how can you change that to the name of a pagan god for instead of calling it Passover? That meant all the way up until 190 AD, believers in Yeshua, whether Hebrews or Gentiles, still observe Passover. Then all of a sudden that Roman Gentile corruption crept in. And so they wanted to connect it to their spring celebration of the goddess, Astarte, and celebrate the resurrection at the same time. Well, Nazari refused to go there because they said you can't change what can't be changed from Passover to Easter. So they were very adamant. Now what we're seeing is among the Hebrew community in America, the awakening, it is instructed by our master that you become a part of the Nazari teaching congregation, that you leave Christmas, Easter, and all of the pagan days, you leave Sunday Sabbath to back to Seventh-day Sabbath, that you follow the laws and commandments about your diet and all of the other customs of Torah, not man-made customs, but customs and teachings from the scriptures themselves of Moses, and combined with the true testimony of Yeshua. The true testimony of Yeshua. Not this testimony that Gentile Christians have of him, but the one that was originally given of him. Not like in Christianity that made up a holiday called Christmas to celebrate supposedly his birth, when actually they wanted to keep celebrating Sun God Day, the rebirth of the sun, by dressing it up and justifying it by saying, oh, we'll make this the birthday of the Messiah. Yeshua warns his people, says, come out of her, my people. Come out of that. So yes, you come out of it, but where do you go? You go back to the foundation that had been laid, the Nazari teaching congregation. And this is the congregation of the pure teaching of the apostles. The apostle Paul never taught us to leave the commandments. People have misinterpreted, misrepresented his writing so bad that even back in his time, if you read Acts chapter 21, people were starting to do that then. They said, Paul, they say you teach not to keep the commandments anymore. And he did all he could to prove that was a lie and actually practiced the ceremonies of the commandments to validate it, that he didn't teach that the law was done away with. And you can read about that in chapter 21 of Acts. So it's essentially important at this time. Our master wants to restore the Nazari congregation. In Isaiah chapter 49, verse 6, it states, quote, regarding the master's plan. It says, it is a light thing for you to raise up the tribes of Israel. Then it says, and to restore the preserved of Israel. Now that word preserve comes from the root word netzar. That means the master wants to restore the Nazari congregation. The Nazari congregation is not like a Christian church. It won't necessarily have to have a building with a steeple. Most of the Nazari congregations in the times of the Basora, they worshiped in houses. There's never an instance where any of the apostles initiated a building project. None of them did that. And they were usually small house fellowships, usually maybe only about 4 or 5 people. They were small groups. They would come together for feast days in bigger groups, like Passover, where these small groups would come together. But in actual practice, their instructions were not based on this current pride of church and Christianity infrastructure to validate the genuineness of their faith, as some do now. And even some Hebrews are getting caught up with that. And so you can see, for all that's being said and taught, some Israelites are still functioning as Christians in that regard. But little house fellowships that meet on platforms like Zoom or meet on teleconference calls on Shabbat, that's pretty much the way it was for the Nazari. They never built buildings. You will not find anywhere in the so-called New Testament where they built buildings or churches, church buildings. There's not a single instance of that. One time, a friend of mine went to Turkey to tour the areas where the 7 Nazari congregations were located, mentioned in Book of Revelation, 7 congregations of Asia. So he had a Turkish tour guide, and he asked the Turkish tour guide, he said, "Hey, I want to see the ruins of the 7 churches." And the tour guide just emphatically told him, "Well, sir, those congregations didn't have buildings. It was when Christianity came into being in the form of it as we know it today that they began to build what they called building, church buildings, to emulate the pagan idol buildings of the pagans." So you see, there's been a misplaced emphasis on the right understanding about a Nazari congregation. And the original apostles, they were the messengers of the good news of the new covenant for Israel, mentioned in Jeremiah chapter 31, verse 31. In order for Israelites to have their proper guidance and footing in departing from Babylon, America, they must be grounded in the pure Nazari teachings of Messiah Yeshua, not the Baptists, not the Methodists, and certainly not the Catholic, not IUIC, not the camps, not the alphabet name groups, but you must be grounded in the pure Nazari teachings of Messiah Yeshua. And sadly, this is the weak spot of the Israelite awakening. They don't know what a Nazari congregation is to be about, because a lot of that information has been either misrepresented by Christianity and its interpretations of the so-called New Testament, or else the documents regarding historical records as well as the scripture records of the Nazari are very limited. In fact, some of them were destroyed. Yet, nonetheless, in this awakening, our awakening has happened at a time when also knowledge and information has increased. So that which was once hidden is now available. And I recommend that those of you who can just go and investigate and study about the Nazarene congregation, because this will be the platform of fellowship that Yeshua will work through to take us out of this Babylon captivity back to our homeland. So this is like not only being on the right train, but being on the right track. You see, some people in the Israelite walk, they're on the right train, but they're on the wrong track of understanding. Or either they're on the right track, but on the wrong train. Let's get both of them right. In order for Israelites to have their proper guidance and footing in departing from Babylon, America, we must be grounded in the pure Nazarene teachings of Messiah Yeshua. Sadly, most Israelites count this as a strange and non-essential doctrine for coordinating how to leave America. And our master, speaking as the word of Yah, he states that in the time of our departure from America, that many Israelites will not listen to his counsel on how to leave, which will lead up to disastrous results, as stated in Isaiah 48, verse 12 through 22, which state, quote, "Hearken unto me, O Yaakov and Israel." This is Isaiah 48, verse 12 through 22. "Hearken unto me, O Yaakov and Israel, my called. I am he. I am the first. I also am the last. My hand also have laid the foundation of the earth, and my right hand have spanned the heavens. When I call unto them, they stand up together. All ye assemble yourselves and hear, which among them have declared these things? Yah have loved him. He will do his pleasure on Babylon, and his arm shall be on the Chaldeans. Even I have spoken, yea, I have called him, I have brought him, and he shall make his way prosperous. Come ye near unto me. Hear this. I have not spoken in secret from the beginning. From the time that it was, there am I. And now Yah Elohim and his spirit have sent me. Thus saith Yah, thy Redeemer, the Holy One of Israel. I am Yah, thy Elohim, which teacheth thee to profit, which leadeth thee by the way that thou shouldest go. Oh, that thou had hearkened to my commandments, then had thy peace been as a river, and thy righteousness as the waves of the sea. Thy seed also had been as the sand, and the offspring of thy bowels like the gravel thereof. His name should not have been cut off, nor destroyed from before me. Go ye forth of Babylon, flee ye from the Chaldeans. With a voice of singing declare ye, tell this, even to the ends of the earth. Say ye, Yah hath redeemed his servant Yaakov. And they thirsted not when he led them through the deserts. He caused the waters to flow out of the rock for them. He clave the rock also, and the waters gushed out. There is no peace, saith Yah, unto the wicked. In verse 12 of Isaiah 48, which states, Hearken unto me, O Yaakov, and Israel, my called. I am he. I am the first. I also am the last. Our Master Yeshua refers to himself in this verse as the first and the last, which is what he says of himself in Revelation chapter 22, verse 12 through 13, which state, and behold, I come quickly, and my reward is with me, and to every man according as his work shall be. I am the Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end, the first and the last. In verse 13 of Isaiah 48, it states, quote, my hand also have laid the foundation of the earth, and my right hand hath spanned the heavens. When I call unto them, they stand up together. Our master Yeshua says of himself in this verse that he created the heavens and the earth, which is what is said of our master in John chapter 1, verses 1 through 3. Quote, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with Elohim, and the Word was Elohim. The same was in the beginning with Elohim. All things were made by him, and without him was not anything made that was made. In verse 14 of Isaiah 48, our master Yeshua is referred to as the arm of Yah. Quote, verse 14 of chapter 48 of Isaiah, all ye assemble yourselves and hear, which among them have declared these things? Yah have loved him. He will do his pleasure on Babylon, and his arm shall be on the Chaldeans. He is likewise referred to in John chapter 12, verse 37 through 38, as the arm of Yah, spoken of in Isaiah chapter 53, verse 1, as stated. John chapter 12, verse 37 through 38, quote, but though he had done so many miracles before them, yet they believed not on him, that the saying of Isaiah the prophet shall be fulfilled, which he spake. Yah, who hath believed our report, and to whom hath the arm of Yah been revealed? Also in verse 12 of Isaiah 48, our master declares of himself that he is the one who will cause the destroyers of Babylon to prosper, as stated in this verse 15 of Isaiah 48, quote, even I have spoken, yea, I have called him, I have brought him, and he shall make his way prosperous. Also, it is stated likewise in Revelation chapter 17, verse 16 through 17, regarding how our master Yeshua will one day ultimately prosper those who will destroy Babylon, America in the latter days. Quote of Isaiah, Revelation 17, verse 16 through 17. And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, and make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh, and burn her with fire. For Elohim hath put in their hearts to fulfill his will, and to agree and give their kingdom unto the beast, until the words of Elohim be fulfilled. In verse 16 of Isaiah 48, our master Yeshua said, he was with Yah Elohim the Father from the beginning, who sent him by the Spirit to Israel, as stated in this verse 16 of Isaiah 48, come ye near unto me, hear ye this. I have not spoken in secret from the beginning. From the time that it was, there am I. And now Yah Elohim and his Spirit have sent me. Likewise, this was spoken of him in Matthew chapter 15, verse 24, and in John chapter 17, verses 3 through 5. Together, quote, but he answered and said, I am not sent but unto the lost sheep of the house of Israel. And this is life eternal, that they might know thee, the only true Elohim, and Yeshua, Messiah, whom thou hast sent. I have glorified thee on the earth. I have finished the work which thou gavest me to do. And now, O Father, glorify thou me with thine own self, with the glory which I had with thee before the world was. Then in Isaiah chapter 48, verse 17, our master declares himself to be the Redeemer of Israel. And he insinuates that he is the one who will show us the way how to successfully leave Babylon, America, as stated. Isaiah 48, verse 17. Thus saith Yah, thy Redeemer, the Holy One of Israel. I am Yah, thy Elohim, which teacheth thee to prosper, which leadeth thee by the way that thou shouldest go. However, in Isaiah 48, verses 18 through 19, our master bemoans the fact that Israelites don't listen to his instruction on how to leave Babylon, America, inferring they are not interested to hear his instructions on this matter. And as a result, they meet the disastrous results. It's stated, quote, verse 18 and 19 of Isaiah 48, oh, that thou hadst hearkened to my command. Then had thy peace been as a river, and thy righteousness as the waves of the sea. Thy seed also had been as the sand, and the offspring of thy bowels, like the gravel thereof. His name should not have been cut off, nor destroyed from before me. These verses describe the tragic problem Israelites have when they do not listen to Messiah Yeshua's instructions on how to leave Babylon, America, but they trust in the advice of man and their own desires and wisdom. Yet in verses 20 through 22 of Isaiah 48, there is a time when ultimately our master will say, leave Babylon, America, as stated in verses 20 through 22 of Isaiah 48, quote, go ye forth of Babylon, flee from the Chaldeans with a voice of singing, declare ye, tell this, utter it even to the end of the earth. Say ye, Yah hath redeemed his servant Jacob. And they thirsted not when he led them through the deserts. He caused the waters to flow out of the rock for them. He clave the rock also, and the waters gushed out. There is no peace, saith Yah, unto the wicked. The wicked in verse 22 are those who will not accept the master's guidance on how to leave America. But they strike out on their own understanding and encounter problems and take away their peace of mind.